Good day everyone and welcome to another tutorial. In this tutorial we will be making a fountain, but that's why you clicked on it. I had a bit of a problem yesterday when I recorded this thing. There was a problem with my microphone, so the audio sucked. So to make up for that little glitch without having to redo everything, the tutorial will be shorter and you guys are watching a time-lapse of the basic modeling of a simple fountain. You can copy it if you want to, you can make something different. It doesn't really matter as long as you just have something to work with. So let's get into the rest of it. The one thing you'll notice is that my anti-aliasing is turned off. This is because I do it in post. Now the Lord led me to build a post-processing version of anti-aliasing, and it has literally, in some instances, more than cut my render times in half. I kid you not. I do warn that it is a very resource-intensive node, so the harder your computer works to post-process something, if you add that, it is going to work a lot harder. So if you see it in my post-processing, like, hold on, like over there, it's there because it's something I use to speed things up. And I'll show you at the end of the tutorial why I use it, just to show you guys the difference. So for the time being, I'm going to turn it off just to make the process just as fast as possible. Sorry, I have to press M to mute it, not H to hide it. Old habits, old habits. Okay, so you can see that I'm just connecting it straight up to the background layer. I removed the freestyle layer. We're not using freestyle objects in this instance. You can make things freestyle, you can add white outlines, I really don't care. As long as you do something that suits the scene that your fountain is in and that it fits the style that you're aiming for. So let's get to the rest of it. Okay, now the rest of it, I'm going to turn off compositing. That will make it even faster. We need some water. So in order to add some water, I'm just going to put my 3D cursor in the middle of the scene because that's where the fountain is at. You can see that if I go into top view, you can see that it's right in the center. So in order to get some water added, we're going to add a circle. The default circle will do the job because, quite frankly, it's the exact same subdivisions as the fountain is, except it hasn't been subdivided yet. It's got the same amount of, what do you call it? Let's see what it's called. I should just say it when you can't get on the word. It has the same amount of vertices. Thank you. That was the term I was looking for. Anyway, I'm going to be using a triangle fan. I just like it. I really do. No particular reason, no functional reason, no real big deal reason. I just really, really like it. Okay, so it does need to go into the walls just to be safe. Okay, just wanna, gotcha, okay. Okay, let's make that blue. Call it water. And this is just a preliminary blue. I do recommend making it a little bit darker so that the spouts that we're going to make really, really do stand out. You can make a toon if you want to. It's not required. I'm going to. I find that in anime styles, they often paint the background and then they try to draw as little as possible over that. You know, it's a speed thing. So sometimes you would have fountains that have absolutely exquisite detail and highly reflective water and all that kind of stuff, but it's a painted background. So you only have like these little rings on the surface that are animated. So if you want to go for something like that, you're absolutely allowed to. You can also make use of the fact that you're using a full-on 3D system and get your reflections to interact. I do know that it can sometimes kind of clash a little bit. So it's just one of those things that you have to decide what it is that you want to go for. Personally, I'm going to add reflection, but I'm going to try to keep the material as flat and toony as possible just to help with that gel or cohesion, however you want to phrase it. Okay. Going to leave it like that. Okay, so there's our water. Now you're going to duplicate it for the others as well. Remember, this is a full overflowing fountain, just like in the example. So we want to make it as beautiful and full as we possibly can. One thing I didn't do in the example video that you're going to see at the end is add some spouts to the Suzanne monkey heads that form like this sculpture thing at the top. I'm going to add some spouts to their mouths to make them spray water as well. Okay, I think that's good. So let's join these together so they're the exact same object and scale. Let's call this fountain water. Okay. Now we need to add a texture. This texture just represents the basic movement of the water. Remember the water reflections tutorial? This is something similar to that. So if you want to see how good it looks, you just make sure that your mirror is turned on. You can make it 100% reflective if you want to. I'm going to make it fade very, very quickly to the material. Okay, that's nice. We want it to be object following. So I'm just going to add an empty. This is so that the water is animated. So just going to say insert location. Insert location. We're going to be using this empty quite a bit. It's just to keep speeds consistent, that's all. Okay, so let's go into the graph editor. You can see that it's got this bend in it. You can just make it linear and go back, and then you will see that it's consistent all the way through. And it just doesn't stop, which is exactly what we want. Okay, so we just need it visible to actually select it as a coordinate for the water. Okay, so we've got water surface and get the empty. Okay, there it is. Just want to rename it empty coordinates. Let's call it dynamic coordinates because it is about being dynamic sort of space. And again, you've heard this a million times. Please name your stuff. You won't regret it. The larger the scenes get, the harder it is to locate something if everything is named texture.001 or 2 or 3 or 4. You can't depend on the little thumbnails. Trust me on this one. Name your stuff. Seriously, just name it. I'm going to pair these as well. And I'm going to call this fountain sculpture, Suzanne sculpture. Okay, just to make sure everything fits. Okay, so that's the sun. Just want to make sure it's still set to be nice and crisp. Okay, that is cool. Okay, so we have some ground, we've got some water. So let's look at what the water looks like. I forgot to turn off color. Okay, my bad. So, yikes. We just have to turn off color at the bottom over here and turn on normals. That's a little rough, but if that's what you want to go for, you're more than welcome to. I don't know. I think we're going to have to stick with it for now, just to see what happens. I think so. Let's just stick with it for now. Kind of not. I'm not peaceful about that. This looks nice. You know, very subtle, still beautiful, fades out quickly. I like that. Awesome. Okay, I'm just going to hit save. Now we need to add some water because fountains have water. So if you didn't know that. So I'm going to add a cylinder. Now this cylinder is going to work exactly like we built in the previous tutorial for the garden sprinkler, link in the description and thumbnail on screen. This particular method allows the water to flow in a certain direction without you having to use a water simulation. You know, you can use the UV to your advantage. Okay, so just need to unwrap it. And in order to do that, you need to get rid of the end caps. Adios. So get in front of it. You can use the number pad keys, select it all, unwrap, and cylinder projection. Let me show you what it does. If you go for cylinder projection, you can see that it's nice and lined up on the edges. This means that when we loop the texture, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. So getting back into 3D. Now we need to make it work for our fountain. In order to do that, we're going to be using the bevel feature. But we first have to make sure this thing starts and ends where it needs to. Otherwise we're in trouble. I think that's good. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shrink it down to start inside this water over here, because I want it to just kind of flow out, you know, I really do. Okay, so first thing, we want water to go there, and I'm going to, yeah, did it bevel it? No, it didn't. Okay, that's good. Now taking the second one, aka the bottom one, and the bottom one over here, we have to expand it so that it fits the bottom bowl as well. So just let it go a little bit over, because it is after all a fountain. Okay, I think that looks good. Now we just need to take it up. So just get out of that and just pull it slightly up and over the edge. And if you want to, in this instance, you can make another loop cut in here, because it's pretty much going to be solid, you know, the movement. And just take it up slightly like that. And of course you can add another one just to make it a little bit sharper. Okay. I'm going to add a beveled edge here just to bend it over the edge of the water. It just makes it look a little bit nicer. And now we're going to finish off the top one as well. There we go. So make sure you can see it. Shift Z and pull it out. Something like, oh, no. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that. I was hoping I wouldn't have to, but no, that's the way it works. Okay. Okay, so the water has to go over. And I'm going to expand this one and pull it inwards. I was really hoping I wouldn't have to do this. It's one of those things. Just go with it. Just go with it. Again, just a slight rounding, and hide this inside the water. Okay, that looks really, really nice. I think so. Can hit smooth, and that is going to be our water thing. So let's name our water thing water flow. Let's call it soft water flow, because it has a very, very soft look to it, like you guys saw in the example videos. So let's call this soft water flow, same name. You can leave it on white, you can leave the material the same as well. This is one of those things where you really, really don't need to, what's the word? Make it a toon material, because it doesn't quite work as a toon material. Okay, so a new texture. And we're going into the node editor because this is going to be a node texture. Obviously, you can do this in cycles as well. I just prefer Blender Render. It's much more flexible in terms of NPR. But like I said, you can certainly do this in cycles as well. So get a scale node. Going to go -1. And we're going to mix with a blend texture. That's going to form a factor for it, and we take the original as well, and boom, loopable texture on the x-axis. Or tileable. And tileable is not exactly the right word, but I'm just going to go with it. So cutting that, and we need to scale it as well. I'm going to make it about 20. So we get a nice clean flow. And we need to make it move as well. So we'll get to that in a second. Where's the translate node? There it is. So we're going to place that before the scale. And we're going to move it on the y-axis as well as the z-axis. Now the z-axis is so that the water changes shape as it goes, and the y-axis is to just make the water move. Now I think we have to go forward with the y. Yes, we do. So I'm going to insert a single keyframe for z and for y, and we're going to move it forward. I think that should do it. I do believe that the y-axis is going a little bit too fast. So the goal here is to quickly, sorry about that. Let me just get back to the node editor. Is to make it, why isn't it showing up? Yeah, the shape wasn't selected. Okay. There's a tip for you right there. Oh goodness. Okay, so I'm just going to take this down a little bit. We just need to do a basic test to just see whether it's going too fast or too slow. So we need to make sure that it is hooked up. Yes, it is. Just want to turn on the alpha factor there too, and boom. Can't really see enough. Ooh, that's pretty. No, I don't think it's too fast, at least not yet. I think we can slow down the Z though. That's going a little fast, to be honest. But I think we're going to leave it as is for now. Yeah, let's just leave it as is for now. Okay. Now we need to define our alpha areas. So what we're going to do is we're going to separate out RGB and we're going to combine RGB. So that's going in there. Just want to get it to focus. Okay. And what I want to do is I want to give a little bit of a brighter area at the bottom where it actually makes contact with the water. Just to make it, I wanted to say pop a little bit more, but that's a horrible way of saying it. I think we'll do this part in just a normal overlay. I think we're just going to get the alpha working right now. So how you get that working is you simply take what is in here, place that in the alpha as well, and boom, there you go. Now something we do also need is to define where the water just kind of fizzles out for these areas over here. So I don't know if that's really going to work in this instance. So let's see. I'm going to add another blend texture. And I'm going to stick it in the alpha alone on vertical. And I'm going to use a color ramp to see what we have to work with. If we have to modify the UV a little bit, then that's fine. I don't think that's too much of an issue. In fact, I think we should. Let's do that. Let's use faces. I think faces it might recognize a little easier. No, faces. Yeah, see, it's on the exact same spot. Stop it. Yes, that's annoying. Okay. Yeah, see, it's all on the same spot right there. I don't want it. That's way too... It's way too close. Way too close. Did it actually select all the faces? You know what, let's just expand this part. I think that might do the trick. Let's see how many segments that is. There's that. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're up at the top. So the top also needs expansion. I think it'll be easier like this. Just need to give it a little bit of working space, you know. It's not too sensitive, but it's not sensitive enough either. For example, this area has to be a lot smaller. I'm just going to make that fit. Okay. Finally. Okay, that should be enough with the UV. Sorry for that. That took a lot longer than I was hoping it would. So now we can actually test it again to make sure that everything is as transparent as it needs to be. Oh, doesn't that just look so pretty? Maybe I should just let the water fade out like that. Looks so nice. You know, and then have the splash kind of thing going on at the bottom. I think we should do that. Let's just be a little different. Let's be different. Okay, going to the texture. Make sure you save often. With transparency, Blender loves to crash. Really does. Okay, so let's just see how far that goes. Okay, that's up to there. Does have to be fairly solid. Not overly solid, honestly. Okay, I do want it to stop about there. A little bit more. Okay. So, of course, another black one. Just move it over right there. And we also need a white one. Boom. Okay, so for the same effect as at the top, does it need to go a little higher? What about if I set it to ease? No, ease doesn't produce the same result. I think we're going to switch it to ease, just so it kind of breaks up a little bit more. Do you think it's not gradual enough? I want to add, let's see if I push this over. Yes, that's beautiful. I like that. Perhaps we can make it a little bit darker so that it has a much more gradual feel to it. I think we have to do the exact same thing over here. Pull it over and make it darker. Not too much. Seems to be something like that. Okay. So of course it does need to fade out as well. Boom. Now you see, this is where the effort with the UV comes in. Because now you get to make it nice and soft. Just like that. So that when it now flows, we've got a really, really nice look to it. Okay, so like I said, I do want to add that post, you know, kind of falling and splashing effect. So we're going to do that now. I wanted to add it, you know, just under here, but it's not going to work. It's really, really not going to work because it has to be kind of morphed and warped with the texture. So I'm going to add a blend texture and I'm going to just add it to the one we have right now, this blend one over here. So I'm just going to clean this thing up. Okay. Remember, like I said, save often, otherwise you may regret it. Okay, so I'm just going to add this one to the mix, because remember we're adding more alpha to it. We're not taking it away, we're adding to it. So just make it one, make sure you clamp it. And this one has to be added to the color system as well. Remember that. So it goes there too. And it's also this blend texture over here, right there. So if you want to, you can use this as a reference just to make it a little bit easier. You know, just a little something like that. We're just going to make it splash a little bit. I think ease is going to be the best, yeah. Has to be nice and level with the water. Okay, so for the same at the top. Okay, that's the best it's gonna get. Oh, that looks so beautiful. Really, really does. So I just want to show you guys a nice and big view of it. Isn't that just pretty? You can just look at it all day. Absolutely stunning. So instead of using a normal color type influence, we have to make it all white because it's white water in a way. So we're just going to change this color thing to be, where's the converter? Right there. To make it all white. So that, there. The only thing we forgot is the alpha channel aspect of it. So we have to mix it. Yeah, this is going to be a factor. And then that is going to go in there. And this is going to be black. I think that's great. I'm sorry. Okay, this color goes in there, sorry. Now, why in the world? No. I misunderstand. There we go. The water isn't breaking up enough. That's why it's not getting the result that we're looking for. Hold on, this is also a problem. I think that was the problem, honestly. And this one needs to have its black aspect. just so it breaks up enough. I want it to break up a little bit more. Oh, that's beautiful. That is so, so beautiful. Good. So now after spending like 3 hours on the water itself, now we're going to get to the rest of it. So we're going to do some particle stuff. It's not super, super fancy. It's very basic so that it's fairly easy to do. So we're going to add a plane. And we're going to be using it quite a few times. So we're going to work with one and going to finish it, and then we're going to duplicate it. I want to show you guys a very awesome baking trick the Lord showed me yesterday that I think you all are going to be super excited about. So let's call this one as spout 000. Same thing there. And it doesn't need to be fairly long, so give it a good frame range so we have a nice look to the tutorial. I'm going to make it about 3000 particles. I'm going to make them random. Make the normal about 5 or so. We wanted to like spray vertically into the air, and we do want it to break up a little bit, so we're going to add Brownian force. And we will be getting to the object in a second, but we want to make sure that everything works nice first. I'm reducing the gravity so it doesn't fall so fast. And that means I'm going to have to use a lower value. Yeah, I think 4 is good. 4 might be a little strong. Let's go for 2. What does 2 look like? 3? 2.5. No, I kind of like 3. What do you guys think? I think 3 is nice. Obviously, it's way too high, so we're going to put it more at the water level, just below. Okay, I think we can make it 3.25. Yeah, that looks nice. Okay, that looks really cool. Okay, just going to move a little bit more inward, and I think we are good. So top view. Okay, I'm happy with that. Let's get another plane in here. And this is going to be for those little water rings that form as stuff hits the surface. The drops hit the surface. So it's going to be the size roughly of the splash so that it makes sense, which is roughly there. And now we're going to need to make some rings. We only need to make one. So yeah, get a torus, move it out. The default subdivisions for the torus is more than enough. Erase literally half of the thing. I think that looks cool. And we do need to make it thinner. Now the easiest way to make it thinner is to get the inside of the ring and use either sharp or smooth, doesn't matter, and just extend it and increase the influence as you go. Don't want it to be too thin, but you don't want it to be too thick either. And do the same from the other side, just so it's a nice ring, just like that. And yes, it does need a little bit of height because we are going to have it, you know, lift a little bit before it goes down into the water. Now, some of you might be wondering, why am I doing it so different from the other tutorial I did that deals with similar stuff? The main reason is because this one doesn't limit you in terms of the geometry. The further out it goes, it doesn't start kind of jerking out. You know, it doesn't wobble out. That's why I'm using this. So the other one works more works better if you have moving objects. This one works better if you have static objects, or if you have a lot of objects that requires this sort of thing. You know, like whether there's rain falling, or a big splash, or fountains like this, whatever the case might be. So let's just call this one vertex exclusion, and add a displacement. The displacement is so that it kind of fizzles out as it grows. And let's call this one ring fade. I'm just going to make it Z because that's the whole point. We're going to use the same object, the dynamic coordinates, and we have to make sure that it is actually functional as a cloud texture. So get that exclusion, and we actually have to define the exclusion, which is my bad. I didn't define it. So we're going to select that and inverse, because we only want it on the other vertices, those, excluding those. Okay, so that you get something like that. It looks like a little crown type deal. Just want to make it a little bit weaker, and you might want to just there we go, that's what I did. Okay, something like that. I do caution that you do have to consider the point over here, so just take it down a smidge so that it can go up before coming down. You'll see what I mean later. Okay, I do want this thing to be a little bit higher, just like that. Okay, that's beautiful. So let's see what it looks like, and therein lies the problem. I want to make it larger so that it doesn't overdo it. Let's see. Yeah, I see. I think that thing goes way too fast. I think we're going to have to reduce it. Where is it? I think I saw something over here. Yes, there it is. Yeah, it's way too fast. Way too fast. So where's that empty coordinates thing? I was going to drag it over there. Let's see now. Still a little bit too fast. I think that might do. Let's see. I think that'll do. We just have to reduce the strength again, just so it kind of wobbles. Remember, it just has to break up at the end of the surface, not the whole time. We can adjust it later as well. So let's call this water ring particle, or add the particle as a preface, because it really helps. Okay, I believe that's good. Let's just make it like a shadeless white. If you want to, you can make it shaded, but it is going to make it obvious that it's something that's on the surface. So it is done in shows. I have seen it, but personally, I kind of like that shadeless white look for the rings. So I'm just going to put that under the surface. Okay, so over here, we need it to show. So you're going to have to add a particle system. Let's call this one water ring emitter .001. And let's call this one water rings .000. Let's make it 1 because this is 1. Let's keep it consistent. Now you don't need 1,000. Seriously, you really don't need 1,000. A little goes a really long way with these. So I'm going to make it 30. No, not 30. 300. I'm going to make this about... we'll see. We'll just leave it at 50 for now. We do need it to make its scale over time, because when water hits, the circles scale out. So we're going to have to do the exact same thing over here with the particles. We make them scale out, strand and particle, and instead of time, you set it to size, and this represents the timeline if you set it to strand and particle. So if you were to look at this now, when we add the object under the, not physics, object, you can just type in, don't need to type anything. There you go, you see that. So on the emission, this velocity point, you don't want it to be very high, but you do want to dampen and you do want to drag the particles so they move as slow as possible, so that when they sink, they don't sink immediately. So you also have to reduce the gravity to be about 0.1 or so. And then you test it, because you can't just let it be. You see, they're already going, they're not big enough. So let's scale them up. That's way too big. Okay, so let's look at that. Okay, they do need random size. And they do need to be bigger. I think our texture needs to be bigger as well. I can see that it's breaking up a little too fast. So let's just increase the scale of the texture. Make it 0.5. No, not the camera. Let's just see that. You see, it's just, I think it might be too strong. So let's just get the particle thing and go minus 0.1. There we go. Yeah, I think it was just a little too strong. It was just a little too strong. And the texture is a little too big now. So I'm going to go for 0.4. It's really as simple as that. Now you can make it bigger. I personally think it should be a little bigger. Not too big, because as you can see, it's kind of like on the surface. So I'm going to have to drag this down into the water a little bit. And the gravity also. 0.11. 0.15. 4. 3. 2, 5. Yeah, that looks nice. I just want to see below the surface how big it goes. Now we can push it a little bit more. Yeah, I think that's nice. Now, if you want to, you can always add more. That's really up to you. I'm personally happy with this. I am going to make sure that that is turned off, this emitter thing, so that it doesn't show this plane. Okay. I still think it's a little small. One of those things. Anyway, let's duplicate the two. And I'm going to put one over there. And I'm going to put one over there. And I'm going to put one over there. Just want to make sure this one is nice and centered. Okay. So what you do now is for every particle system, you make it new. And I do recommend naming them consistently as well. I think this one is supposed to be named 1. No, it is named 1. Okay. Okay, this one is 0. This one is 2. And this one is probably 3. Yes, it's 3. Okay, change the seed. The seed makes it just respond differently every time. Okay, that's good. And of course, the same has to go for the emission as well. You can see this one goes way too far. So I'm going to reduce it to about 45. Let's just see it. 40. 35. Yeah, 35 will do. Okay. So making it random, sorry. This follows the exact same principle again. So this is going to be spout emitter. Let's just call it emitter. Spout dot 000. Okay. And follow the exact same step with the seed and the duplication. Okay, now all of them are different, but one thing that is still lacking is the baking of the differences. Now, one thing with baking is the more is on screen for it to bake and process and whatever, the slower it is. Whereas if you hide the stuff and you bake it, it is lightning fast. Now, I'm not saying that works in every instance, but it does work in this. So I'm going to add a metaball because that's what we're going to use for our water. The reason I'm using a metaball is because it fuses automatically. So you've got particles, but they stick together just like fluid would. It's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. So there's the metaball. I'm going to leave it there for now, but I am going to move it below the surface once we've made it the focus. So let's call this water particle. Water. Let's call it spout water. Just like that. Okay, now for all of these, you have to go and set it as the object. So if you want to, you can just go particle and say spout water and copy it. Then you go to this one, object, paste it. This one, object, paste it. And this one, object, paste it. You do want some normal. The great part about the fact that this is so, what's the word? Duplicated is that it does give us the ability to use it more cleverly. We can get those random instances and those random things. It just adds a smidge more realism to it. Realism in the sense that it's varied. Okay, now obviously our metaball is way too low res and our particle systems aren't baked yet. So I'm going to bake them despite the particle size. I'm just going to bake them ahead of time. Where's the other? There they are. Okay, now you've seen how slow it is. Let me turn off all of these. And of course the metaball as well, because it has been made the object. Okay, now check this. You see that? That's how fast it gets. It's absolutely incredible. Okay, so with that baking trick behind us, let's quickly get this going. So I'm going to use 0.1. I just want the water going. I think it has to go 0.075. For some reason, it seems to be extremely Okay, we just want to find out what our particle size needs to be, and we'll adjust the others accordingly. Okay, it doesn't need to be too big. I think that's nice. And we do need to add a little bit of a blend to it. So I'm going to set it to strand and particle, and again size, so that it starts off fairly nice and big, not too big, something like that. And I want it to kind of fade out at some point. So I want to make it just a little bit smaller at the end, something like that. And of course we do want some children particles, but we'll get to that in a second. You know, let's do that. We're busy anyway. Only about 5 at the most. Just a heads up. Okay, so it needs to clump so that it's nice together. I think it's the other way. Yeah. Yeah, shape down. Endpoint needs to be upped, just so it's a little bit more spacey. Uniform, a little bit out, and random size, of course, needs to be fairly limited. And let's see that. Yeah, that looks nice. So it just kind of breaks up as it hits the water. Awesome. Let's quickly do a material. Now this is one of the only times I'm going to recommend you do this, because it doesn't work with lighting generally. So if you're going to do a fountain thing, remember you might have to keyframe these things, but just go with me on this one. You can also follow the method in the tutorial for the original, you know, the first sprinkler one, the core sprinkler, link in the description, thumbnail on screen. You can follow that method, but it does take compositing and it does take extra issues with transparency like this. So it's easier to just do it like this. Okay, so spout foam. It's always a foamy kind of look. So get a ramp, set it to result, make it constant, pull it over, and make this one a blue, also opaque. Not too, you just get a texture going. Textured view, not a texture. Okay. I want it to be big enough, something like that. That's beautiful. Okay, going back to solid view. Now we need to make sure that everything else is consistent, but I do want to try and get the water's particle size a little bit bigger. A very, very little bit. Oh, that's beautiful. I really like that. Okay, so we're going for 0.08. Not that ridiculousness. That was awful. That was really, really awful. We also want to copy the children's settings before we turn them on again. Okay, so we're using 5. I'm going to time lapse this because, quite frankly, there's no point in me doing it and you just sitting and staring at me doing it. Okay. Textures. I forgot the textures. My bad. So now if you turn them on, bam. Which one? There we go. Look at that. Isn't that just so pretty? And they're all unique. That's the cool part about it. It's all unique. Oh, it's awesome. Okay, so for the sake of time, I'm just going to mute them. And I'm going to add another one, you know, just to get the water flowing from the monkeys. I think I should just make it, I don't know, we'll see. I wanted to kind of go forward first, but I don't know, we'll see. Okay. Let's make it 3000. It seems to work as a value for this kind of thing. And let's make it 3 and see what it does. Perhaps 2. Let's just add a little bit of randomness to it. Maybe a little bit too much. Yeah, I like that. Okay. And of course, we go for the object, and that is going to be our spout order. Fortunately, I'm going to have to up the particle size. I really don't want to add children particles to this. I don't think I am. I'm going to leave it as is. Okay. And you do the exact same thing for the others. Okay, that's good. I'm thinking I should join them. Yeah. Then it's one particle system with 12,000 particles. Maybe I should make it more. I'm going to make it more. Let's make it 16,000. Okay. Obviously, we are going to modify this one to compensate for the additional stuff. I forgot to increase the amount of rings that are supposed to appear. So I'm going to have to increase it first. I'm going to make it at least 1,200. That looks kind of cool. And I'm going to turn it off again. I'm going to look for something else that's on because something is really slowing it down and I don't know what. Oh well, just gonna hit bake. Okay, let's check it out. Oh, isn't that just the most beautiful thing? Look at that. Absolutely stunning. Okay, obviously keeping it on screen is a bit intense, so I'm not going to keep it on screen. I just want to make everything visible for a second so we can see what is lacking and what is not. Let's just make the metaball update. Okay, so that spout has connected, that spout has connected. Let's just rebake this one. No, this one, the water, that one, thank you. I just have to increase its amount because it's got 2 points focused on it. Where's that mid-ball? Boom, right there. Okay, so this one needs to be freed and doubled. I guess you could say the hardest part about fountains is getting everything to interact. I think that's what's making it extremely, extremely slow. And just look at that. That's so pretty. Now, one thing we still need to add is a little something here at the bottom of the water. So I'm just going to turn off the stuff that we really, really, really don't need to see because it's just unnecessary. So we do need the fountain water. We don't need to see the metaball stuff. We don't need to see the flow over there. And I think we're good. So what we need to do now is we need to get this little ring over here. And we're going to be using it as a means of the water interacting, you know, where it connects. So I'm just going to pull it up, and it's going to go as is in here. Just want to check it out. As you can see, it's way too big. So I'm just going to take it a little bit under so that as it moves, you can see that that's the response. There's just one thing I want to change, and this one, that's on the metaball. I wanted to make it fast. There we go. Okay, that's a good response. Just want to see how much it responds. Okay, no, that's good. And we're going to do the same for the bottom, but we do have to thin it out again. So if you want to, you can thin it out as part of, you know, kind of scaling it out like this. Or you can go a little bit further and then bring it back with more scaling. Something like that, and then expanding it so that it fits. Okay, that's really nice. We also need to add this ring thing over here where the monkey little statue thing is, so that it also has interaction with the water. It's not just sitting there, you know, it has to respond. Okay, that's good. And we need to do the same thing for the tier. You know, where it connects to the water. Something like that. Just gonna have to get rid of the soft water flow so I can actually see it. Yeah, that looks nice. And the same thing for the bottom tier. And finally, we need to do it for the fountain itself. Okay, there we go. So the fountain has a little bit of interaction and everything else does too. So if you turn on everything and you hit that little render view, you'll see something like this. Isn't that just so pretty? Oh, it's beautiful. Now what is immediately obvious is this bright ring over there, so I am going to make its material unique and give it some shading. So I'm going to do that first. Okay, I'm gonna give it some shading. And I'm going to turn off shadeless and make it a toon material. 1.28, no, 1.28. I'm going to make it pure white, turn off specularity, and make it full oversampling. Okay. There was something missing. Let me just check it out again. Yes, the water is way too almost transparent in a way. I don't like that. I want it to have at least some emission value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the water spouts that make it so slow, and I'm going to go in here for the soft water. So turn that off for the soft water, and I'm going to add some emission to it. I think something like that will do. Okay. It's just a little bit of a fine-tuning type issue. So again, looking at the whole, we will see let me just update those, and boom. Fountain. Oh, that's beautiful. I do see that it's like the connection points are not pure white. They seem to be that grayish default white instead of pure white. And indeed they are. Okay, so let's give it another shot. Yeah, that's beautiful. Now, if you want to, you can go a lot further and you can add little rings that expand from the center over here and all that kind of stuff. I'm not. This tutorial is way too long already. You guys can do that. I've done that for the example, so check those out again. Okay, so now we have this done, so I'm just going to move that out. Okay. I want this visible, and I'm going to take a full frame like that, and I'm going to render it with Blender's anti-aliasing turned on at full HD, and I'm going to show you the render time, and then I'm going to show you the render time with the post-processing, and I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see the difference, because there is a quality difference. Blender's is better than the post-processing one, but I don't think it's worth twice the time. I really don't. So with everything set, I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to turn compositing on because otherwise it's not a fair comparison. Okay. So remember, the only difference is going to be that it has already rendered, and I'm going to switch the anti-aliasing method. I'm just going to save it to prevent any crashes. Okay, so that took 19 seconds. Okay, so now I'm going to switch. Okay, I'm just going to cancel that. Okay, so we've got 19 seconds. Switch slot and do it again. 8 seconds. Can you believe it? Half. Okay, so just so you guys can see the difference, you can see that this one struggles with fuzziness. It kind of bleeds a little bit too much because it doesn't know what to do with it. Edges like this look nice. Let me just zoom properly. I think to 1. You see it looks nice. It does struggle a little bit with more diagonal edges, but it does a fairly good job. You can see it's got these little spikes, not a big deal. You'll barely be able to see it anyway. Yeah, it's just really fine detail that gets to it a little bit. Okay, so as I said, the quality of Blender's is higher than mine. So this is Blender's, this is mine. Blender's, mine. Blender's, mine. It seems that the anti-aliasing also kind of messes with the textures. I did not know that. Blender's anti-aliasing, not mine. Mine keeps the textures as is. But seriously, this is a very, very big difference. I think it's worth it to do anti-aliasing in post, despite the quality difference. It does have some artifacts, but yeah, I like it. I mean, like this, you can mainly see the texture differences there on the surface. And of course the memory difference as well. It takes almost a gig more memory to do. But yeah, that is it for this tutorial. If you want to use the post-processing anti-aliasing node and whatever else, you can check the description for links to the download page. Have a great one, and God bless you.